Hello, this would be my fifth stream, and this one is just gonna be another one. Hello, this should be my fifth stream. Well, just doing test streams, but this one I'm gonna actually be doing just more chatting while sewing, cause kind of have a like my big final project coming up, and everything about that is related to sewing and stuff, and super kind of like yeah, everything's happening all at once. But this, I mean, earlier today was doing like jewelry, like yeah, earlier today was doing like jewelry work and well, making a belt buckle, but need to do my hand sewing stuff too. Might as well stream. Oh hey, kind of got on fast. I think I was just talking about doing like work and sewing for finals, or well, final project as in like this is actually like the equivalent of my master's thesis. So have to hand sew a whole bunch of stuff. So figured since I have to do the hand sewing, might as well chat while doing it. And black thread right here. Because literally, like most of the garments I have for my final collection, all I need is hand sewing. But it's like, you know, like the kind of hand sewing where, you know, on like suits and stuff where they have like the top stitching or the prick stitching around like the front near the lapels. Yeah, so it's like that kind of stuff where it's just meticulous, but and it can't be done by machine. I mean, in theory you could do it by machine, but that'd be absolutely like that'd look absolutely horrible. Oh yeah, probably. Delay in chat. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, probably not too much. There's also the fact that I'm like just looking up and down and everything while streaming. So I might be looking down to like thread a needle. Especially since I need to, well, yeah, just do like a prick stitch along the lapel, then also to finish the hemming this garment. I mean, this is actually a pretty heavy overcoat. And I'll just do this. So, oh yeah, I mean, it's better than when I tried the video game stream and I couldn't figure out how to get it so I could actually see the chat while playing the video game. Which, there's probably a way to do that, but I mean, I do kind of bill myself as a very tech illiterate streamer because I figured there's probably some people are into having a Luddite elven witch. I mean, not full on lollibaba, but like, yeah, I guess kind of definitely. Oh yeah, probably can. Yeah, the professor did say prick stitch. Yeah, so just doing a prick stitch around the bottom of this hem first, which it's really not rocket surgery to do. Like it's pretty much just a really weirdly, well, it's not weirdly spaced back stitch, but pretty much it's a back stitch meant to sort of be, well, a lot of times it's done ornamentally, but I'm just doing it like the lazy way where there's going to be like a half inch between stitches because I don't want my hem just randomly flopping about. Because, I mean, I have a really wide hem and a heavy fabric, so that just causes things just sort of, yeah, flop about if you don't have it tacked down, which is what the prick stitch is for. And it's times like these where I sort of understand why people use thimbles. I mean, I usually go the lazy route and just never use a thimble just because. I've sewn leather, like, well, hides before, and with a regular needle, not like the typical way of doing leatherwork, but other hides, and have done it without a thimble. Although I was wearing an apron, a leather apron, so I could like press down on the. Oh yeah, that works too. But that's. I mean, I made a fur hat. I actually don't know if I have the pictures of it on this computer, but probably could show that. But I made a curved hat and Well, no, I made a fur hat, not a curved hat, fur hat. Yeah, I made a fur hat out of badger hide, which apparently is really thick. And yeah, then didn't use a thimble the whole time or pliers. I just sort of pressed the back of the needle against my apron, which works. I mean, pretty much the. I mean, honestly, it's pretty relaxing day just hand sewing that while watching Jeremiah Johnson, the Robert Redford Mountain Man movie, where he talks about a. Yeah, that's a good movie that not enough people talk about. I know the scene with him, like by the river laughing, is pretty popular reaction picture, but yeah, not enough people watch that movie, and that's a pretty good movie. I mean, there's probably it probably could be more historically accurate, but there's worse movies out there. Plus, there's not that many. How many major Mountain Man movies have there been? I guess they technically count as westerns. I mean, they take place out west. Oh, never heard of Jeremiah Johnson? Yeah, that's one worth watching. It's a bit slow, like movies at the of the time were, but it's it definitely does its part to set the atmosphere, and plus that like the actual like cinematography for the era is like really pretty. Of course, like I guess Mountain Man movies in general are a good opportunity to take advantage and show off the like show off nature, like the Revenant too. That I guess that's another like fur trade era movie, although it's a bit more. It's a actually no. Jeremiah Johnson's. I mean, it's is actually super gritty too. I mean, the whole premise is the guy end up. I mean, part he kind of ends up like devolving into cannibalism too. I mean, that's why he's known as liver eating Johnson. Oh, like there's. I guess it's spoilers, but it's history, so I can say whatever spoilers I want. So he, if you hear people talk about him now, a lot of times they'll call him liver eating Johnson, and there's a reason for that. So like the movie, it shows him. He pretty much gets sort of forcibly married to the wife of a native chief. So I forget her name. I forget her name, and he ends up like building like a pretty nice family, but his family's murdered by Crow. So this happened in real life too, actually, and that's why he became known as a. It is sort of the origin of how he became known as liver eating Johnson, is because he pretty much would kill any crow he crow Indian he saw, and when he would do that, he'd cut them open, slice off a bit of their liver, take a bite, spit it out, and shout, "The liver of crow is not fit for human consumption." Which, that I mean, that's a pretty hardcore way of showing your contempt towards a whole people. Although he actually eventually ended up making up with them too, which is super part. He killed like at least 100 like members of this tribe, and still end up making peace with them, which is that alone is. I mean, the whole thing is pretty impressive, and I guess you can say they don't make people like that. And they just don't make people like that anymore. But honestly, I mean, that's probably for the best that we don't have people going around cannibalizing each other in the Wild West. But yeah, this the fur trade era. It is a really like could be used for like there's a lot of potential. People are looking to for like fodder for movie plots, and like I mean there's a lot of like older Mountain Man movies, but I mean you could do a lot with well yeah, I guess The Revenant would be a good example. That's a movie covering the fur trade era about crap, I should remember his name. Like again, super famous Mountain Man. I mean, who I want to say Robert Glass. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I mean, keep in mind that I do talk about history a lot on this channel, but I'm mainly an amateur historian, and if I don't have a source I can immediately remember, I'll just take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, like, yeah, you remember that movie. Pretty much he gets mauled by a bear, left for dead, and then he ends up surviving. I mean, the movie added in a bunch of stuff that didn't happen in real life. They did go out of their way to mention how Jim Bridger was like a young, like 16, 17-year-old Jim Bridger was one of the people who left him to die. Yeah, Hugh Glass. Yeah, thanks. But yeah, that just this like yeah, just all the like videography in that one is just super pretty landscapes and everything. Of course, contrasted with somebody surviving after getting horrifically mauled and having to fight his way across like unexplored territory. So yeah, I mean, again, it's sort of contrasting like the pretty landscapes with the like people fighting and killing and hunting. I mean, though, also I guess out in the like at the end of the movie they show him tracking down the guy who killed him, or no, left him for dead and killing him, but in real life that guy had enlisted in the army and he decided not to kill him because that would make it a federal crime if he shot and killed the guy. So he wanted revenge, but he didn't actually get revenge on either one because he figured out Jim Bridger was a lot younger than he thought he was, and it's like, well, you're a kid, I'm not gonna kill you. And the other guy's like, wait, you're a fed now. That would be kind of a crime, and I don't want to get hung, so I'll just we'll just call it even. Cause yeah, kind of a tangent from ma- sewing and making hats, but was making a hat for a Mountain Man impression, which I mean it's still a mediocre impression, but it was fun to make, and it's actually a super warm hat. I mean, it was my first time really doing like a major project with fur, but okay, let's see how this looks so far. I can probably press those out. Yeah, I guess part of the hard part about is for this is trying to get the actual like stitching down the hem to look neat. Especially since kind of working in my lap because that's actually the easiest way to get this to work. Probably should take off my boots at some point because I wear them when I'm doing like leather or metalworking stuff like I was doing. Oh yeah, that's what I was doing working on before starting the stream is was making a belt buckle. So let's see. I can actually post a picture of that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, kind of swapping between metalworking and fabric stuff. Yeah, I can see there's like a bit of display. I mean, of a lag between when I post stuff and when it actually gets streamed. So that's actually supposed to be a belt buckle, but I'm going for since my theme for my final collection is based around fairy tale and mythology and the like Jung, like Carl, the teachings of Carl Jung, is going for butterfly because traditionally butterfly, well, traditionally Psyche, the Greek, well, the Greek mythological figure was shown with either as a butterfly or with butterfly wings. Of course, Psyche pretty much also represented anima or the soul. So since I'm using Jung as some of my inspiration, I figured I might as well show that off. course, still need to finish it. I figured broke enough jeweler's saw blades that would call it a day. I mean, plus, I mean, you can only spend so much time sawing. And that hem actually looks good. Let's see, now I just need to stitch the lapel up, and then, I mean, I probably could yeah, actually no, that's not going anywhere. Okay, I need to stitch the cuffs in place, and then I need to stitch the lapel. Actually, I'll do, yeah. Using a Coats thread for this, although I kind of prefer the Gutermann German thread, but I have this leftover roll of Coats thread, so yeah, I mean, I would consider doing this stream while working on metalworking stuff, but this computer isn't exactly portable, and my most of my like metalworking stuff is in the basement, or in my basement. And plus, I mean, if you think like the avatar constantly looking down is bad with this, I mean, the jewelry making stuff, it's kind of, or well, technically the techniques I'm using for making those belt buckles come from a jewelry making. Actually, I literally took a winter semester month-long like jewelry making for non-jewelry majors, and just that like month-long class has kind of carried me like it was a surprisingly useful class later on. I mean, at the time I took the class, I never thought that I would be using stuff I learned in that class for my graduate final. That and engraving. Doing a lot of stuff with engraving for my final. Which is kind of funny because... Oh crap, that needs to be... Which is kind of funny because I learned the engraving because I was building a Hawken rifle and I wanted it to be fancy and engraved. So I taught myself how to engrave for that. Then figured wait, why would I buy somebody else's buttons and hardware for stuff when I could just make it? So that's what I did. Or that's what I'm doing. Well, actually I have all the buttons already made. But yeah, so literally most of my finals based around stuff I learned either in undergrad because it seemed fun, or stuff related to me liking firearms and stuff. Like all the handbags and belts are stuff from I did because initially I wanted to make holsters because holsters are expensive. Like a proper holster is expensive, so I could pay somebody else hundreds of dollars for a holster, or I could make my own and then eventually get to the point where someone could pay me hundreds of dollars to make a fancy holster. Which, yeah, I guess I kind of do commissions, so. Okay, now I'm doing the top stitching on the lapel. Pretty much this is just to get it to fit exactly. Well, it's not really top stitching, it's more of a prick stitch. But this is pretty much just to get the lapel to lay exactly how I'd want it. So it's like super, a lot of the tailoring techniques end up just being super subtle things that most people would like say like, well, yeah, a lot of tailoring is pretty much just like a combination of small things that add up. So yeah, this is probably not going to go as fast as the stitching down the hem, but it's important. It's just almost like a diagonal stitch the way I'm doing it, but yeah, I'm doing about a half centimeter. Kind of weird how switch between different units when whichever one's more convenient. Or is that just me? That's probably just me. But yeah, I guess just doing like a 5/8 between stitches. Because I mean, this overcoat, well, kind of is like one of the. It's like the supposed to be like the first look of my collection, and it's just an absolutely like retarded, like weird mix of stuff. And yeah, that lapel's already laying better. But yeah, tailoring is definitely a skill I admire, and it's a skill I wish I was better at, but that requires patience, which is something I don't have. Despite being a 300-year-old elf witch, surprisingly impatient. Yep, top edge of the lapel done. Then I need to stitch all the lapel and all down the center front of the. Of course, doesn't help that I'm working with a thick wool mountain. So, hold on here. Then, let's see. Yeah, I probably should have a picture of what I'm working on up. And let's see. I think if you look really closely at the background, you can see all the fabric scraps from a. Because, yeah, pretty much for like fashion school, it's like, well, the end stretch before you graduate is just non-stop sewing. So yeah, you can see that heavy wool mountain. I mean, it's one of those fabrics that's thick enough where if you cut it, it's not likely to fray. It's kind of cool how the model does that. For if you're like sticking a needle in your mouth to hold it, like you can sort of see that. And because I figured I have to have this in Wednesday, so if I do like one garment a day for the next several days. Well, no, well, one look a day for the next several days. I'll have it done by Monday. I mean, today I kind of got a head start on the metalworking part for my stuff I need to finish for my two other looks. Because on top of the sewing I'm currently working on, I got most of that belt buckle done for the second look, and I've finished most of the pommel for the third, for the sword. Yeah, because I figured I should make a sword because not enough people wear swords for fashion. Although that could just be me. I mean, a few hundred years ago, that was all the rage. 1700s, having a nice, fancy small sword with a custom made hilt that you'd normally pay a jeweler to make for you. Of course, there's like even beyond the 1700s into the 1800s, there are jewelry companies like Tiffany's in New York would actually make sword hilts. Like I think there's a few examples of in the Met of Tiffany made sword hilts for small swords and military officers' presentation swords. Like once civilian sword use became less common, they're still officers. So yeah, surprisingly, like of course, I mean most of Civil War. By the time of the Civil War, like even cavalry with their sabers, they didn't really use swords that often, if at all. I mean, apparently a lot of troopers, from what I read. I mean, that's kukri. Those big kukris, I guess, kind of are close. If anything, that'd be closer to a dagger. I mean, kukris are kind of do have a reputation as fighting knives, and like, yeah, they can do a lot of damage. But like proper, like the last era of like common, proper, everyday civilian, everyday carrying a sword as a sidearm would be like the late 1700s, and that would be the small sword. So for this, since back then swords were, I mean, it's an everyday wear thing, so it's not. I mean, it's a sidearm, but it's not like a concealed carry sidearm. It's not like they're CCing a sword. So yeah, people would want something that looked nice, and so pretty much they'd order the sword from the blade from the blades would be imported or bought from like Toledo or Solingen or one of those other major blade or like Sheffield, like one of those major like bladesmithing manufacturing hubs, and the person would buy the blade, then pay somebody to make the hilt. So you could pay just your regular blacksmith who would do like something simple out of steel with a wood handle maybe, or you could pay a jeweler who'd make you something like cast from silver and or cut steel or other fancy methods. Like they're literally like works of art, well, works of jewelry, but you can argue jewelry is a art. But so I was sort of planning on having a small sword as part of my collection because I think it'd be cool if more people carried swords. I mean that's totally like middle school tier fantasy thing, but some people like that middle school tier fantasy stuff. And of course, the professors absolutely, well, they didn't freak out, but they didn't think. Initially, I wanted to actually use a live blade because what use would it be to give the model a fake sword? But then, I guess to make things easier for school, I just decided to use a commercial fencing blade instead, since those are actually allowed on school property. Without, I mean, I guess anything's allowed if you don't get caught, but I am kind of handing it off to a model, so yeah, that they would figure out right away that wait a minute, this is a real sword. Almost finished the lapel, then I just need to sew down the whole center front. Yeah, this fabric definitely is tough. Do I have a thimble? I mean, I guess the other stuff I have to sew is a bit easier. I mean, everything else in my collection is like lightweight linen, or I guess it's kind of thick, but still like a thinner wool suiting. So I guess this is like the main slog, is just getting this stitched down properly, so I don't have like, yeah, pretty much you don't want like the actual seam where the facing meets the main body of the fabric showing when it's being worn, because that's just sloppy tailoring. And the way you do that is just carefully stitching things down by hand. I mean, I'm sure there's a way they do it for like mass market suits that you buy at like Macy's or J.C. Penney's, but for they don't. I mean, they probably could teach mass market, but they usually don't bother because they want you to learn the best way to do things. Then you can learn the sloppy way later. And I guess I'm at the break point for the. Yeah, this is the break point. Like the break point is what they call where, on suit jackets where the lapel folds over. Not to be confused with the breaking point. Though I guess it's the breaking point of the front where the lapel falls over, but it is what it is. Wow, that sounds overly fatalistic for just talking about sewing. Or talking about very, very tailoring minutiae. But, I mean, for people who care about suits, I guess that is very important. Kind of phrase that like I'm somebody who doesn't care about suits. Like, honestly, that kind of having a bit sloppy with getting dressed. Like, slowly as the past year wound on, I went from actually paying attention to outfit and appearance to thinking like, oh, I have some leather working I need to do today. I'll just put on baggy jeans and that I'll be wearing an apron over. I mean, I almost like when. I mean, I think last stream when I was doing hand sewing, I was wearing an apron too. But right now, my apron's kind of covered in sawdust from all that nickel. And nickel dust doesn't seem like the best thing to just be wearing around about the house, so took it off for this stream. And yeah, I guess the lapel is a bit thicker because this is going a lot faster. Yep. Oh yeah, this is actually looking really good. It's actually becoming presentable. Or relatively presentable. I mean, it's still not as good as my accessories work, but yeah, I mean, like the whole time my professor was talking about like how making everything seem like the accessories where it would be like second fiddle to the garment, even though I said I wanted to focus on accessories. And then of course then the other day when she actually was looking at the accessories, she kind of was just like, oh, these actually look good enough where you could have just did accessories and send the models down the runway in like a jumpsuit or something, and just have the accessories be the main focus. And it's like, I said that was kind of what I wanted to do. So, but I guess the outfits are important for setting the stage for the accessories, because if I want a purse or belt that looks like an evil witch would wear it, I kind of want the person wearing an evil witch outfit, which is why. Which would it be? Oh well, probably should stop with the witch puns. Or should I? Yeah, I have no idea why this stitching's going so much faster now, but it is. Yeah, still probably should also stitch down the. Well, oh shit, fuck. Yeah, occasionally even I stab myself with needles when sewing, but it normally doesn't happen that often. Oh shit, I think I'm starting to bleed. Oh well. It'll stop bleeding eventually. It's a dark colored fabric, so they won't see it. Yeah, a lot of tailoring work really is fiddly. You know what? This wool melton also is a good fabric for doing like reproduction. I need to get some because I do eventually want to do like reproduction, like Revolutionary War uniforms. Because no, I've been floating this idea around for a while. Like what I do is pretty much make a reproduction Revolutionary War uniform. Then in downtown Philly, they have the whole historical district where a lot of times you'll see like guides and stuff in a lot of time you'll see like guides and stuff in like period dress. So I was thinking what I do is I get a oh yeah, blood in the fabric, totally. Well, this literally the inspiration for a specific look is literally Evil Witch. So maybe they have a little bit of blood from butchering Hansel and Gretel. I mean, yeah, I mean fairy tale stuff. Some people might think, ooh, fairy tale inspiration for fashion might be overdone, but I mean, I guess the stories stick around so long for reasons, so might as well make use of them. Plus, I mean, I'm probably the first person to, at the school at least, to have a sword for their final collection. Because, I mean, how can you have a dashing prince without a sword? I mean, I know you can, but, well, you could always give him a gun. Except that would probably be frowned upon, too. Where was I? Okay, actually, where did I tie that on? So, okay, there it is. Let's see, stitch, stitch, and I'm gonna have to go and IP all these too. Actually, would I be allowed to say what IP stands for? I mean, it's a term you learn in like boot camp. Oh yeah, pretty much Irish pennant for when you're. Oh, if only I had the time and money to give a model a wheel lock pistol. God, I would love to have a wheel lock. Like that's on like one of the guns I want to build. Like a wheel lock pistol would just be, well, a wheel lock rifle too. Like one of those super fancy German style hunting wheel lock hunting rifles. Of course, I need to get better at like engraving and inlay and bone and everything before I even think about shelling out the money for one of those. But it's those are the kind of skills it takes a while to build up, and been working at it. Follow like one or two like long rifle builders on Instagram. I think I think one of them might be like American Renaissance. I don't know, but yeah, wheel locks are just like peak. Just for that peak 1600s Europe aesthetic. I mean, just even though they were mainly using arquebuses and stuff, it just makes you think of like the 80 Years' War or one of the numerous wars in Italy. They had a lot of small wars in Italy, which I guess is what happens if you get a lot of city states in one area where they're all trying to like vie for control and everything else. Actually, around like the late Renaissance, early modern period, the Spanish Empire owned like pretty much all of like southern Italy too, which is like Naples and stuff. I think Naples was a duchy under. I could be wrong because again, this isn't my area of expertise in history, but pretty sure Naples was a duchy under control of the Spanish Habsburgs. And yeah, the Spanish Habsburgs definitely had a definitely were Habsburgs if you see any portraits of them. There's a good art there's a good like documentary series by this one art historian, Valdemar, I want to say Janicek, pretty much a British Polish guy, but yeah, it's a pretty fun art history documentary series. But he goes into Goya, and honestly, like for fashion history too, Goya's portraits are super helpful because Goya wasn't just, I mean, he was the court painter, which that in itself is impressive because he was very, very cynical and not a big fan of royalty. But he also painted the common people a lot too, which is useful because then you, a lot of times for fashion history, what gets left out is what the common people are wearing because at the time they don't really think it's worth like memorializing like what is the average farmer wearing. So Goya went about like would actually paint like the common people. He also didn't actually sugarcoat his paintings of the Habsburgs, which is also uncommon, but he was a brilliant enough artist he could get away with it. Because yeah, they you could definitely see the inbreeding. Like they had the full Habsburg jaw and everything. Yeah, just really. And of course, Goya's prints. I remember seeing those in art history. Well, not art history, but just art class in high school. And yeah, Goya's prints are some dark stuff. Remember, because that was for the printmaking unit, and part of that was talking about like the teachers talking about people using prints to spread messages and stuff. And his was he really didn't like the church either, or the Inquisition. I mean, apparently he expected the Spanish Inquisition, but again, he was famous enough he could get away with a lot. Well, he still kind of had a somewhat tragic end, like the whole madness thing, and locking himself in a house and painting all the walls was super dark. I mean, everybody knows the famous, most famous one of those, Saturn devouring his children, which I've also seen a lot of parodies of that. With I think my favorite would be it might have been Pepe or uh, Gondola devouring his children, but or was it Spurto? It was one of. Oh yeah, no, it was Pepe because it was featured in a research paper by some research paper commissioned by the EU on hate online hate, which that paper was absolutely hilarious. Like I guess it's one of those examples of people like being paid to research something and they research it so much that they pretty much just adopt it. So they got paid to research a certain website known for certain board on a certain website known for being the internet hate machine. And it starts off as the exact like reading like exactly the kind of paper you'd expect the EU to commission. But then there's like the occasional use of a term where it's like they seem a bit too familiar with the use of that term. And then like they discuss Pepe, then they reference like okay, see they just mention Pepe and they say reference C Appendix 1 or Appendix A. So you read through the paper, it's actually pretty interesting. They break down use of different bad words by country and region and typing styles by country and region. Just kind of interesting. Apparently, like they group together the U.S. and Finland in the way they type on online. Kind of weird. But but so when you finally get down to Appendix A, there's only one appendix in this research paper. Appendix A is titled "An Overview of Some of Our Collection of Rare Pepes." Not their collection of rare Pepes, some other collection of rare Pepes. And it's just a whole bunch of just pictures of rare Pepes with a very like tongue-in-cheek academic sounding descriptions of each rare Pepe. Like if you know that one with a Pepe sitting in a snuggie where you see a nuke going off outside. The caption on that one is just a very comfy Pepe. Then there's a but most of them are just all like super like pseudo pretentious academic descriptions for each picture. It's hilarious. And the EU paid like commissioned these researchers to write this paper too. Like to shitpost on a research paper that the EU commissioned them to write is just like you have to admire it. And okay, finish one side. I'll probably tack down the sleeves next. Since I have a bit of thread left on this needle. Yeah, I mean, spend a lot of time looking down. The avatar just closes her eyes. It's really funny is this not the best looking jacket. Probably has like a good like $100 or so or over $100 worth of textiles used in it, most likely. Oh yeah, the paper's great. I don't know if I have a link to it saved on this computer though. Open source music would probably be a nice thing to have. But the problem is most open source music is crap. It's not something you hate. Like watch a lot of like building and other like like just YouTube videos of people making stuff. And there's always like someone who have like a really neat video, but they'll just play absolutely horrible music during the video, which is kind of yeah, just makes it unbearable to watch. It'll be like crappy public domain music, like not even good public domain music. Hold on, is there actually good public? There probably is good public domain music, but well, it depends on what your definition of good music is. Hold on, that's something I probably could look into. Hold on, right now this thread is trapped around a button. I'm trying to figure out which direction it's in. So before I have to okay, there it is. Yeah, one of the buttons I engraved with wolfsbane on it, or aconite. Because there for some reason just kind of hold on there's probably a way you can something you can Google for this. Or license free. Ooh. Ooh, this is a lossless one too. huge. I mean, I'm not an expert in classical music, but always love Vivaldi. I mean, compared to like a lot of other composers, his music just says like so much more. Like it's just yeah, you can tell I'm definitely not an expert in classical music. Actually, he used to have a friend who would like criticize me for listening to classical music loudly, but like a song like this just kind of like you have to listen to it. Like I mean, like the best way to listen to it is just loudly, so like you can like hear the tiniest little bits in the violin playing. Mm. Paganini's good. Of course, like I don't like usually when I'm listening to classical music, it's while I'm working on other stuff, so I never actually remember which pieces I liked. I usually just put something on and I'm usually sewing like I am now. And here. Yeah, pretty much just tacking down the yeah, the sleeves on this coat are kind of well, not kind of, they are inspired by like Justicore or like the later jackets where they have like the cuffs that go up. Like if you think like a Revolutionary War era. Although I specifically cite like French Justicore though as my inspiration for the sleeves. And then the back is actually inspired by Robe à la Francais. God, my voice is getting all hoarse from not drinking enough. I think wine actually is a better thing to drink during streams than beer. I guess the carbonation isn't the best for your throat, but it's so good. And there's this. Yeah, I'm probably going to redo this tack in the back. Did I already pull that out? Oh yeah, this tack kind of catches in the wrong way. If I have to, I can fix it tomorrow, but I do eventually want to fix it. Yeah, I can definitely fix it tomorrow. Put it on the dress form and do that by hand. Let's see, they had winter. Would be nice if I could just get the whole. Well, no, that was just the Allegro non molto from Winter. Oh, this one. Seems like the whole thing's public domain. Nope, that's just Winter. A whole free music archive. Oh, this one you hear a bit more of the concert hall in it. Or a bit more of like the acoustics of the concert hall. And yeah, having to rethread the needle. Actually, I know on YouTube there's a really good recording of the Four Seasons that was done fairly recently, but where they play it with actual like vintage instruments too. Which they sort of talk about in the description how they feel like the vintage instruments have more like tone and more like character, while talking about modern instruments having like being a bit more focused around just being consistent with each other. Which I can see that people definitely prefer consistency. I don't want to pull out. And let's get this stitched down. I'm definitely going to finish this stitching I need to do on this tonight. And time to start stitching this down. Yeah, I guess this recording just feels, the actual playing feels a bit less sharp than I'm usually used to hearing on this. But again, I'm not an expert, so... Just a humble seamstress. Well, maybe not the most humble, but I try. God, how I try. And I don't remember the rest of the lyrics. And I say, hey, hey, hey. But yeah, just looking at the lapel and the center front on this is amazing how much just a little bit of stitching can, how much of a difference that can make. Ew, almost misclicked. I wonder if there's any public domain Paganini recordings could possibly find for a later stream. Because it really does feel like music adds to... Can add. The right music can add to a video. Although there's also a few videos where it's just better without that. Like, there's this one... I probably mentioned this guy already. This one guy does a, like, just timber framing type videos, where those are just better, where you just hear like the sound of, like, does like almost all the stuff with hand tools too. So like one of them, it's him building a hobbit hole inspired root cellar, where he does all like the quarry, like all the stonemason type stuff, stone cutting by hand with chisels and hammer. And like he builds the door completely with hand tools. So hand saws, axes, planes, that kind of stuff. And that kind of stuff is just super cool to watch. Because personally, like, I can't even like hand stitch leather without breaking out the power drill if it gets too thick. Like for like the top part of holsters, like at least the way I make holsters, where you wanna be able to get the gun into and out of the holster quickly, so you have a bit more flared. So you put in sort of like a, there's a proper name for it, but I'm too distracted by other stuff to remember the proper name. But put in like a spacer thing in the stitching so it flares open, and that way you don't just have the body leather of the holster like touching right with the body leather of the holster at the opening, because that would put more pressure on the trigger guard and cause more wear, or more uneven wear on the sharp edge of the trigger guard for the holster. But in order to get that looking like proper, you have that spacer pretty much coming like adding like double the thickness of the leather you're already stitching through for the body of the holster. So you end up with a end up having stitched through like half an inch to 3/4 of an inch worth of leather at the top of it, which pretty much just means for the best results you have to use a power drill. Or, well, not the best results, just so you don't end up hating yourself. Well, power drill, and then to actually work the stuff through, and kind of usually have to push the back end of the needle against a hard surface or use pliers. I mean, getting a proper like harness leather machine would make it go faster, but hand stitching is actually stronger for a a saddle stitch rather than doing a saddle stitch rather than a machine stitch, because machine stitch, if one of those stitches fails, it's a weak point, while saddle stitch, if one stitch gets worn through, it's not as big of a deal. Okay, can't just be me. Convinced the lapel part on this is a lot harder to sew through than the rest of the front. Then once I'm done this, I'll have to do the same stitching on the collar. Then this part will be done for the night. Then I'll probably switch to probably doing the baby hem on one of the blouses. Well, on the blouse that needs it. Or I need to stitch on the collar too, but that's something I can easily do. I'm wondering, should I be like, what do the two listeners here think of this style of stream? I probably could actually do more like promoting, self-promotion too, but might have to do that. See how many people can. Oh yeah, I'm definitely not the best with self-promotion. Hold on, getting close to the break point on this jacket. You mean, what do you mean self-promotion won't help? You mean people don't just come to you? I mean, maybe that's how I don't know how most streaming works. Bragging about, oh, I'm gonna be sewing while talking at the camera. So you get to see an hour's worth of a VTuber avatar staring down at a garment that you don't actually see. And I just need to... Oh yeah, now I need to actually... figure out the best way to get this to swap over. Okay. Got this. I've got this. I mean, I guess this isn't the only streaming experience I have. I've done podcasts with other people. Actually, that's where I ended up just posting the link to this in that server. But I mean, I'll probably do streams with other stuff too, but I guess talking while sewing is good practice for actually keeping a stream going without just dead air. Although music helps too with stopping dead air because... Oh yeah, YouTube doesn't do that. I might have to try once or twice on Twitch, but I've heard bad things about both Twitch and YouTube. Yeah, I might have to try streaming on both, too. Actually, it's... Oh yeah, a lot of people do. I mean, a lot of people hate YouTube too, but... Oh yeah, there's another concurrent viewer. Welcome. If you're wondering, the stream is literally me sewing while Yeah, they left already. Yeah, if you're wondering, the stream is literally me sewing, hand sewing, which you can't see because of VTube stuff. Oh, this isn't Fortnite? What do you mean this isn't Fortnite? Oh yeah, that's what all those VTubers people are doing. Fortnite. Don't you see the 10 kills on the board right now? You don't even want to know what untold horrors and war crimes I committed at Tomato Town. I mean, you can probably see, like in a few years, you'll probably see videos of the tribunals regarding what I did at Tomato Town. I regret none of it. I was just following orders anyways. I mean, orders from myself to myself, but it's totally justified. Plus, oh no, like threading a needle is super natural to me now because you have to do so much hand sewing for proper tailored garments. And that's what I'm doing right now, is literally just hand sewing. And well, I'm doing like proper Nuremberg defense is my favorite chess opening. I mean, I'm not a legal... Actually, there's always... Yeah, I'm not an expert on legal stuff. Or chess. I mean, I've seen a lot of like 5D chess going around, but... And we... Yeah. Ooh, 4 playbacks. Seen a lot of 5D chess going around, but not the best at it. Oh yeah, definitely. Well, technically it's for what's pretty much the equivalent of my master... Well, the fashion equivalent of my master's thesis. And it is for a master's of science, too. because like even I'm kind of surprised. I unironically thought I was in an MFA program for like a year because like the first pretty much it was actually a 3 year program because they want to make sure that people coming from a non-art background don't suck at drawing. But so much that I legitimately thought I was in an MFA program. And then I look at my transcript and it's like Masters of Science. Just when I thought I had escaped STEM, I learned that it was STEM all along. The horror. I mean, just imagine me like a bold Marlon Brando. The horror, the horror. Oh yeah, jack of all trades, master of fashion design, which is ironic because most of my fashion vinyl is consisting of me engraving stuff or cutting out metal. I mean, I had it posted earlier actually. The belt buckle I was working on today. I mean, I was also working on a part of the hilt of it. I mean, I got the actual, well, not the guard. Crap, having a brain fart on that part of the small sword's called too. Been having a lot of brain farts on technical terms, but that's what happens if you only eat 2 meals in a day and not include, well, okay, 3 meals in a day, but one of the meal. Oh yeah, I I like my school backpack is actually a 511 one I picked up. Someone on a different website recommended a backpack from another company. Favorite style? Hmm. There's a lot of ways I could answer that question. Definitely not street style. Oh, wait. No, I'm not answering that. That sounds way too lewd. Hold on. I mean, ironically, like fashion schools just warped any has warped my ability to actually talk about fashion or even buy clothing. Because like you get to the point where you're in a store and you look at something, it's like that seems kind of expensive. I could make that, and then you never do make it. You just sort of you might even buy the fabric for it. Then the fabric just sits in your closet for like years. Don't lie to me. Yeah. Let's see. For some reason, all I could think of was stuff I shouldn't be thinking of or old dead memes, like Gangnam Style. I maybe, but I mean, could always just be the smartass who brings up some obscure fashion. Oh yeah, no, my favorite is totally dandy, except not really. I mean, kind of really find history stuff interesting, even though history of fashion was. Oh, okay. See ya. But yeah, really find like history stuff interesting. I mean, yeah, I kind of use a lot of history inspiration for my final. Oh, see you, Tactical Tales. Oh. And sewing. But 1600s. Oh, yeah, like. I talked about that in a previous stream, even. How, find a 16. Like, well, Landsknecks were 15 to 1600, if I remember right. But that they had a cool style. Now I'm just remembering some song lyrics where they talk about, oh, killing me softly with, well, there's the with a song that, yeah, where they talk about like they they said he sang a good song, I heard he sang a good song. They said he had a style. Strumming. Yeah, yeah. My voice is a bit too worn out today to try any singing or karaoke. If I had wine, for some reason, wine does a much better job of cool, like soothing your throat than beer does. And of course, I guess there's also water, but I'm not gonna be one of those pussies drinking water. Can I say that on YouTube? There's probably a lot of stuff you shouldn't say on YouTube that I've said. Well, actually, probably the Nuremberg jokes are a bit spicy, but people told much worse jokes. Then again, like, a lot of those people end up, well, Dankula got, like, in trouble just for having a pug do a Roman salute. It's actually another thing. People being more and more sensitive about that stuff, too. Like, remember, like, watching a movie from, like, the 60s or 70s showing ancient Rome, and they're doing, like, the full proper Roman salute, but you watch a movie now set in the same time period, they just do the first part where they put their fist to their chest. Yeah, those are definitely topics that are too spicy for somebody who's supposed to be a pure VTuber. Oh, really? What what for? I mean, I'm not monetized right now, so it's not really. Apparently, need like 1,000 subscribers to get monetized. I mean, I probably should start doing like promoting on on Twitter too. But yeah, maybe the old people got really angry. I mean, don't underestimate the boomers. They'll go out of their way to get revenge on people they don't like. Fucking old people, man. And more sewing. Well, always more sewing. Pretty much stuck in seamstress hell. Oh yeah, that image pretty much sums up my whole thing. Well, okay, that's not how you post images. Okay, can yeah, no, that's definitely not how you post images. Meant to click on OBS. Browse. Will it actually show up? That's the other question. Will it show up in my... Yeah. Literally me right now, except I'm not wearing a maid outfit. I'm actually wearing a Polypro and Walmart jeans. Totally high fashion, I know. Oh, that's actually not showing up. Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah, it's super small. Never mind. Nobody needs to see that. Let's see how different this looks once I'm finished sewing it. Well, okay, I still have to finish the rest of the front. Then I need to do the cut. Oh yeah, image is tiny. I didn't even bother doing it. It's literally just a screenshot from manga about somebody in a maid outfit stuck sewing. It's actually was supposed to be a page from the Rosen Mita manga, which goes completely different route than the original TV show. The reboot they did. Ooh, bacon carbonara sounds good. Like whenever I have like a major project due, like my nutrition just absolutely goes to shit. Like well, I pre-made a massive batch of chili. which is some of it. Then I have like bacon, eggs, milk, canned veggies for actual like variety. And I can always like fall out like a pork chop and fry that up. Yeah, the absolute epitome of feminine. That feminine. Just ignore that. Wait, oh, there. Might, yeah. Probably you'll can do the same for on this for another garment. Then hold on, what else do I need to do? Oh yeah, I need to sew different hooks onto one garment onto a skirt. Then that's definitely something that can easily be done over the course of this stream. Then I also need to do the same sort of stitching but to a jacket. I need to sew buttonholes for that jacket, but I'm probably gonna actually just do those on the machine. Oh, fried pork chops are like good, like easy, lazy food. And you can just keep them in the freezer for a while. Well, you can keep the pork chops before you fry them. I mean, just thaw them out before you eat. Or, well, before you cook them. So it's good, like, it's good if you just don't feel like running errands. I'm going to have to run errands before Wednesday, but I'll probably just have to go. Well, I have to go to, like, I'll probably have to go to Home Depot for something. Because for that sword, I'm going to need to, like, tap and thread the pommel so I can actually go so the pommel can actually go on the sword. I mean that's kind of the way. I mean there's several ways you can do pommels for small swords. Some they're peened, others they're threaded and tapped and threaded. But once I have the pommel and everything done, like I'm making it for like a fencing epee blade, but I probably could if I felt like having a live sword blade, I probably could order that from a swordsmith and get them to have the tang threaded, so I can just take the hilt I made off and put it on the real sword. Ooh yeah, fried pork chops are good, though. Yeah, I just said that. Don't want to end up with being known for the airheadedness trait, but that's probably inevitable. Inevitable. Absolutely tripping over my tongue today. Actually, wine would be really good right now. Or mead. Yeah, I guess I'm just really craving wine for some reason. If I really have to, I can just run out to the store tomorrow for that. Though, of course, tomorrow I wouldn't be able to do a stream or anything because that's when another server I'm in does movie night streams, and they're doing Master and Commander as like a just among friends type of stream. Oh yeah, that's a good movie too. Just for clothing. Oh yeah, that wine and carbonara sounds perfect. Well, wine and anything sounds good. I mean, beer is good too, but there's time. Well, there's time and places for each thing. Oh yeah, this is actually, yeah, this just doing the stitching is actually really helpful for this. But I might have to get a picture of it on the dress form. We'll see how it works. Just so, just so it's not just a blank screen. You get to actually see that I'm doing stuff during the stream besides just talking and cussing when I only stabbed myself once. Gosh, so violent. And here. almost near the end of this part. Then just have the collar to go. Yeah, I'll probably end up having to do this on the vest, but that's a lot less sewing to do. I'll probably do the vest first, but it depends. Yeah, the vest is already out. And I've already gotten in the habit of doing this stitch. Because it can be kind of hard if you're working on something, so like you get used to doing one stitch, then you have to switch up to something else. Like you like spend a whole bunch of time doing like pad stitching, then you have to do a running stitch, and just completely throws you off. And stitch, 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 stitch. Oh, this is pretty much just back stitching at this point to finish it off. Probably have enough thread to it'd be worth. And no, I'll just rethread the needle. Yeah, pretty much the only time I end up ever actually using my scissors are just for initially cutting the thread. I guess this coats thread doesn't tangle as much as the Gooderman, but the Gooderman just seems nicer. Oh no, we lost another viewer. Or did we? And one more knot. Needle threaded. Yeah, I wonder if you can hear that on the microphone. Just the whole snip. Yep, okay, now it's reflecting. The viewer we lost. I mean, I guess it is a stream of somebody just sewing for several hours straight. And let's, okay. Let's see, get this through, then there. Professor did say I probably should just work on one look at a time, but it's so hard not to just jump back and forth between them. I mean, might as well just do similar tasks at the same time. I mean, right now I'm doing this. Well, I probably can do the I can do the hook and eye fasteners next, just so I can get that look completely out of the way. Well, completely, I still need to finish the belt buckle for it. But that actually isn't... Yeah, I guess that's the thing. A lot of these hand sewing tasks, they aren't hard. They're just... well, hand sewing is a tedious process. That's why we invented the sewing machine. But it can be relaxing, and plus, I mean, it gets the finish that people want. And I probably can, once I finish the snaps, I can do a bit of poetry reading, just since that seems to be kind of a theme. Oh no, screwed up. I can see a little bit of the hair canvas, but the collar covers it, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, it's amazing how fast this hand. I mean, I guess I've always been. I guess I mean I complain about hand sewing being slow and tedious, but from what I understand, talking to other people at school, apparently I hand stitch a lot faster than most people. I could just be super lazy. Well, that's definitely it. I mean, just look at. I mean, just look at my avatar. I mean that this is admittedly this is literally the second thing I ever drew digitally, but I mean there's probably worse people out there at drawing, maybe. But I mean, am advertising myself as a budget VTuber, so nothing says budget like poorly drawn avatar. Yeah, I mean, I guess understanding the sort of understanding how drawing is supposed to go helps. Well, I also don't really do like anime style or manga, like this style of drawing usually. Usually I'm doing like fashion figures, which are all like super elongated and the faces are super stylized, or a lot of times just left out because who has time for drawing a whole face? No, I don't. Well, I usually end up doing. Well, I haven't actually had to draw a figure the whole semester, which is nice in a way because normally you always have to draw garments and stuff. Yeah, for fashion, like literally, just have to do a lot of just drawing figures over and over again. Well, because you want to brainstorm ideas and brainstorming garments. It's a lot easier to brainstorm garments if you're drawing them on a person. And I know like some people go the super lazy route and they literally just like print out pieces of paper with figures already drawn, but that seems like kind of a waste of printer ink, and you know how expensive printer ink can be compared to just quickly drawing like a rough figure with pencil and then drawing a garment over it. But unfortunately, doing like real, oh god, that would piss off a lot of people if I just started referring to drawing and like physical media as real art compared to digital. But I guess you can, like with digital, it's a lot easier to do like art streams with than with physical art art. I mean, probably could do that if I had like an actual like drawing desk and like a camera pointing at it, but that's effort that I normally wouldn't go through. But there's also, I mean, I do have. Well, actually, my other computer can, is has a touch screen that's super sensitive, and you can use it as a drawing tablet. But I would have no idea how to get that to sort of link up with this, and that seems like a massive hassle, anyways. Probably could Google it, but digital art isn't really my strong suit, anyways. So and I guess actually no, that would be something I would have to sort of like pre record if I did like engraving stuff for gunsmithing. Yeah, that's like pre recording and video editing, which also takes effort. And who has time for effort? I mean, a lot of people do, but I admire them from a distance. Lazy and pretty much proud of it. Well, not really. Kind of. Hmm. And more sewing. About halfway down this color. I mean, I say I'm lazy, but then kind of like get have people like, how did you get so much work done? And like, it's like wait, it's like wait, you were working nonstop. How do you not have more work done? Like maybe I just work really fast to sort of make up for the fact that I spend most of my life procrastinating. I mean, it's a 300-year long life, so plenty of time for it. Ooh, yeah, this stitching's totally helping the collar lay better too. And once I'm done this, I'll put it on the dress form, then I'll probably grab a glass of water. Probably could do a little bit more music too. If I remember correctly, this is yeah, the first movement of Summer. And almost on this collar, actually. Yeah, this jacket did not turn out the way I wanted it to, but it's good enough. And I guess the main purpose of this jacket is to showcase the accessories. So it does that purpose. And it shows off the buttons I made, which are the main thing I want to say is, hey, not only can I make garments, which are mediocre, I also have the whole, like, yeah, I guess buttons are underrated design aspect for, like, a lot of things. Which is kind of a shame because, like, historically there are a lot of really cool buttons people do. Like different thread covered, fabric covered buttons that are embroidered. Like cast pewter buttons, brass buttons. I mean, you still see some, but most of them are kind of just generic. Just sort of trying to get the feeling of buttons that used to be, like, tailor made. If you pardon the pun. Yeah, it's totally just me being like. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of the main selling point of this collection is the fasteners. I think I used like $30 worth of silver on it too. Like made a silver, like one of the, well, I might not make that handbag. I might just use it as a necklace, but even did like casting a silver bullet for the collection using like the silver left over from making the buttons. And this is done. Or almost. Still need to actually finish off the thread. That sounded like it fell, but no, it didn't. Okay, we're good. Okay, something sounded loud. Yeah, this doesn't look too bad. Oh yeah, the avatar is going way, way back because I'm standing up and not looking at the camera. Probably out of frame the camera even. No, I'm sort of in. I think. that stitching did a lot to help this lay how it should. I mean, it's still meant to be more yelty, so it's not perfect. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to fix that too, but I can fix it, and that's what matters. And the rest of it looks good. I probably should do that, fix that, but I can fix it later. Good. One look down for sewing that needed to be done. Of course, it doesn't look perfect, but that's just because it's catching on this music stand. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm putting actual glass water. And I just realized I need to grab some thread too. Yeah, that model does that whenever you leave the room. Just like absolutely just like face plants against the camera because you were walking away. Let's see, so next up, sewing hooks and eyes onto a skirt, which honestly is pretty easy. This one I actually get to use my Gooderman thread. Well, I mean, I could have used Gooderman thread last time, but want to use up the coats. Yep, that's what people want out of VTubers. They want being very selective about thread that the viewers can't even see. I mean, I can do some poetry reading once I'm done the skirt. I mean, want to pace myself, and if I'm doing that movie watching, like watching a movie tomorrow, then I can spend that time finishing up the hand sewing parts of my final. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's more important for leatherworking. Well, actually, it's important for everything. just have different spools of thread all over. Like, the biggest issue with my vacuum cleaner is because of just little bits of thread all over the floor throughout my entire apartment. I probably should vacuum in the basement too because of all the metal shavings. And where did I put that skirt? Oh yeah, it's in here probably. Oh, definitely. Because yeah, the biggest problem with this, or the biggest criticism I got from for things I need to fix before turning this in was the black hook and eyes, which is a reasonable criticism. Actually, I probably should just go with white thread on this, but oh well. I'll fix that once I... Actually, that internal black hook and eye is probably okay. Yeah, I'll actually keep that black to differentiate it from the other ones. And here. Yeah, these smaller hook and eyes are probably for the best anyways. Ooh, they spilled all over, but that's okay. And I just need to stitch through here. Yeah, this purple thread's a bit too dark of a purple for me, or for what I want. I probably should switch to white. But it's not the end of the world. I just need to stitch these down. Yeah, I guess you really get fast at hand sewing in fashion school, or I guess I got fast at hand sewing. I can't speak for anybody else. I'm not gonna go full autist about sewing these. I just want to get enough stitches where I know it won't fall out. That's the important part. And this. So you just want to get that over there. Yes, these are small, so it's a bit more precise work. Because, yeah, Professor said the black hook and eyes definitely need to go. I'll probably post a picture if I can. Once I'm finished actually sewing this on. Or this specific one on. Just the two side by side before I remove the old one. Just so you can see like what I'm going from and going to and why it was recommended I switch it. Because I think you'll be able to see why when I post it. Crap, what's this thread getting stuck on? And yeah, picture and sorry, just that head shake was just me getting hair out of my. Yeah, I guess that's one thing about the streaming stuff is you need to keep your hair kind of pulled up so the thing can see your eyebrows so it shows expressions. But then again, most of the time I'm kind of crap. What was I? Oh yeah, OBS. That's where I need to go. Then, but yeah, you can see the. No, you can't because I haven't actually shown the image. And crap. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, so you can see the comparing the one hook to the black hook to the silver one. Yeah, silver one's a lot less noticeable. And now I'm just using seam ripper to get rid of the black hook. And let's see. But yeah, oh yeah, tomorrow once I finish that belt buckle, this look will be completely done, accessories and everything. Well, actually, this would be the second completely done look. The first look I just finished. So, pretty much getting these knocked out like ducks in a row. Did I use that term properly? Probably not. I mean, it is important to keep your ducks in a row. It's always, I mean, I guess that sounds like an odd saying, but kind of assuming most people here sort of get the context of. It just makes me think of like the carnival shooting galleries where you'd have all the duck targets all lined up in a row. And let's see. Okay, yeah, these are super easy to get stitched down. Why did I stitch this one? Why did I stitch the top one first anyways? So yeah, I guess the main effort is going to be in finishing that one final look, which I need to do buttonholes and some top stitching for the vest on that one. I need to just finish the hem on the shirt on the blouse. Well, it's pretty much a shirt, like a proper men's shirt, except it's completely a women's shirt. And then I need to hem the trousers and let out the waist a little bit, which is why I left room in the waist for it to be let out. But it's all like basic, easy sewing tasks compared to some of the other stuff I have. Oh, I also need to finish the sword and sword belt. That, I guess that's more of the time sink is actually finishing that sword belt and sword. But the stuff for actually threading the pommel won't get here till Monday, so that's something I have plenty of time to. That's something that I can't work on for the most part. I can cut out the metal bits, but yeah, it is what it is. Almost, yeah, I've been saying that a lot. And around here. And one more back stitch to get this block down. because tying knots is always annoying. So I normally just backstitch stuff in. I mean, it tends to work pretty well. Well, for pad stitching stuff like that, I don't even tie knots and that, but pad stitching's a whole other thing. I'm sure I've actually feels like I've already explained what pad stitching is in this stream. And just seam ripper to remove this. Well, hook and bar for this, not hook and eye, but yeah. Have that stitched in. Next stitching. Yeah, kind of just jumping back and forth on which one I'm stitching. Yeah, I'll stitch that opposite side. Okay, where did I put my thread again? There. Well, not my thread, my needle. Yeah, kind of gotten in the habit of using millinery needles for all this. Like, mainly because I bought them for millinery, but I mean, I know a lot of tailors use like say they like quilters betweeners, but just millinery needles just seem easier to use for me. Well, I guess it's more of like they're larger, so it's easier for like gross motor control. But well, a lot of tailors and other people in that these like shorter needles, and they push the needle through with their index or their middle finger. But I've just gotten the habit of using a millinery needle and using my ring finger to push the needle through. I mean, well, most people when they learn how to sew, they just roughly handle it. I actually still don't understand how the old way I used to do it before I learned the proper way to sew. Well, I'm still not doing the proper way to sew. I kind of just mentioned not doing that. But there's different levels of doing things improperly. And that'll go up there. And stitching down the second hook. But yeah, this is turning out pretty well. And I guess this is a pretty short task. Then from after this, I might just do reading a fairy tale. Might also need. Wonder if doing like history lectures might be something I could do, but that would take research and effort. We'd have to get all the pictures like pre set up, but that's probably something I could do eventually. But would also need to pick a topic that I actually could speak somewhat knowledgeably about. And although I probably could ramble on about all sorts of things, not really sure which topic would be the best. Just do a whole stream trying to discuss. And this one. And that's done. Next up, just need another one of those little bars. Yeah, going with smaller hooks and eyes too, or hooks and bars too, so need to be a little bit more fidgety, which is why you see me looking down a lot more than I was in the previous thing I was doing, the actual like tailoring thing I was doing. I mean, this is more of like dressmaking kind of things. Like you almost never see these hooks and eyes used on a, well, Maybe you do. I don't know. I know I've seen some men's trousers with hooks and bars, but not like the. You don't really see these fiddly hooks and eyes that often for menswear. And most things are zippers now, anyways, because zippers are easy for people. But most, like, women's skirts, even if they have a zipper, they have a hook and eye at the top. Just because you don't want the zipper coming undone and your skirt falling off. That would always suck. But on, like, really high end garments, it's all hooks and eyes. Although, even then, like, people have been getting more towards doing, like, zippers, even, like, couture, from what I understand. I can't afford it. I can't afford any couture clothing. I mean, ordering couture garments is a whole event thing that people do. I mean, doing like an actual couture thing is more for a fashion house to brag that they have a couture line for the most part. It, it'd be cool, but yeah, like couture is. I mean, technically, when talking about fashion, couture is like a very specific term, like haute couture, high fashion, or high sewing, is like literally a very like it's a legally regulated term in France. Like you can only call yourself haute couture if you're actually officially haute couture and in the official haute couture. Well, technically, it's like a review board. I think technically. And like there's like the official haute couture French haute couture houses. Then there's like ones that are they're sort of haute couture but not completely because they don't meet all the requirements. Then yeah, it's a whole thing. The first couture house was actually 1850s, 1860s. The House of Worth, just really just a I forget how Worth got started. It became super popular because he got like famous because of marketing and getting famous people wearing his clothing. And ironically, haute couture was a step towards mass market compared to what they used to do, where you'd hire a dressmaker and they make everything from scratch. Worth would have a The House of Worth would have several looks per season, and then you would order that look with a bit of customization available, which is still more fancy than what people are used to today, but back then that was actually less than everything being absolutely completely one of a kind. Like even today for haute couture clothing, like they show a couture collection, then when you order it, they make it mostly like that garment, the garment that they showed in the fashion show. But as the customer, you can get a few tweaks. But yeah, that's a lot of buts. Yeah, it's actually really interesting. Like the petite main or the small, like they do like amazing work. Wait, yeah, no, that doesn't go there. Well, of course they do amazing work. I mean, that's, but yeah, like some it's always worth like it's always interesting to watch like documentaries on like Dior or Chanel or one of the other couture houses. I mean, a lot of these companies, I mean, they don't just do couture. They have like various degrees of quality clothing. Well, that's a lot of fashion houses. Like, and you'll have them like their names licensed out for other stuff too. So like you'll have like Ralph Lauren, like you find it like very like Ralph Lauren. They're although they're not couture, they have like various. Well, they have several labels under Ralph Lauren, and they also have like different degrees of quality. So there's the Ralph Lauren you buy at TJ Maxx, the Ralph Lauren you'd buy at Macy's. Then there's the actual like small boutique Ralph Lauren, and then of course there's the kind of Ralph Lauren garments they sell at their like flagship stores in like Madison Avenue, where that's where you get all the big ticket items. It is kind of funny though that like one of their labels is like this Western wear label that they have, or like Western themed, like Americana themed. But under that label, they were unironically selling some like thrifted, like Western like concho belts, like, and they were charging like a lot of money too for something that's literally like thrifted in their Madison Avenue store. Just thought that was hilarious. I mean, it could be wrong. It could have just been weathered to look like it was original, but like, yeah, I guess that was one of those cases where it's like I could make that, but better. But that's mainly belts, and belts are just kind of my wheelhouse. Of course, I mainly specialize in like cowboy belts, but like gun. Having the weirdest sense of deja vu. I could have sworn I've talked about this topic before. But yeah, my collection is focused on belts. Belts and like tooling leather and all that stuff. And belts and buckles. Though it would be cool to work for Ralph Lauren if it didn't mean like having to go to New York City. I guess I just like the fact that they're doing like an Americana themed line, and somewhat partial to that theme. Just a bit. And this. And on the final hook and eye, then I can do some poetry or story reading. Might be fun to do Edgar Allan Poe, like one of his stories. Maybe. Or I could. Oh, Sherlock Holmes might be a fun one. Like do like mystery hour. Wonder if there's like if you can find like public domain scripts for like old like radio serials. That would be cool. Just remembering this one Abbott and Costello. Oh, this one Abbott and Costello movie where the theme was a haunted house, but one of the people they're in the haunted house with was I mean, Abbott and Costello, it's a comedy, obviously, but one of the people they're there with is talking about how she's famous on radio because she does a specific sound effect for like a horror radio show, and she literally just does the like women scream sound effect instead of just recording her once and playing it again. She does it like, yeah, it's mainly just as sort of a comedic effect because they would have her do that during while they were looking for the supposed ghost that isn't there. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of that movie compared to other Abbott and Costello movies, but they had the Andrews sisters in it like they usually do. Hmm. And let's see. And yeah. Okay, I just need to sew on one more of the bars, then I would have finished 2 looks in one night. I mean, that makes it sound like I did most of the work in one night, but yeah, no, I did most of the work over the past like several months. I mean, technically the design process started last year. So I guess it's more the culmination of, like, well, it's the culmination of a degree, so. And technically the belt I'm using for this look I made in a, like, couple summers ago. And let's see. Yeah, literally have just a few more stitches to go. And it's only 10 o'clock too. Well, 9:40. I've been streaming for like 2 hours, 15 minutes so far. Now I just need to rip off the old hooks and eyes, which with a good seam ripper isn't too hard. Yeah, I really got these hooks and eyes on there good. Like the ones I need to take off. Really got those on there good. With this. I mean, I'm gonna have to go over all these like last minute too, just to make sure I get all the little IPs and little hanging threads off of here. But that's just kind of par for core. This. guess seam ripping's kind of a thing that takes a lot of concentration to get right. Or ripping out stitches. It's definitely not something you can rush, like sewing them stuff in. Well, you can rush it. It tends to be faster overall than sewing. But you don't want to screw up and ruin your garment by doing this. Kind of funny, going for streaming using a visual virtual avatar. Then you spend your whole time just narrating what you're doing, and narrating it by saying, doing this, while you pull out a stitch on something. And done. Let's see how good of a job I did actually getting this lined up. And besides, well, actually that's probably the best. It gives it a little bit more overhang, so it looks like I want. And this sort of interlocks, so nobody can see inside, which is definitely always a good thing for skirts. And here it is. Well, here it is, but you can't actually see it. But trust me, it looks okay. Very okay. I just need to find a way to mark this as the back. Well, I guess the normal way of doing it is like this, that you can't see. Pretty much just sewing a bunch of X's. Yeah, this is more fancy thread work. Oh, I need to grab some. I'll be right back. I just need to grab a little bit of ribbon. Never mind, I don't have a little bit of ribbon. I guess I can pick that up on Monday when I go out. Oh, besides that skirt's done. Okay, so What do you think I should read? Fairy tale or poetry? Oh, well, I'll start off with this. Okay, so guess I'll do another. Hmm. Yeah, so I guess starting fairy tale hour. I guess I can post this in one or two servers, maybe. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the giant and the tailor, since that seems pretty relevant to someone who just spent the past 2 hours 20 minutes doing sewing. Okay. A certain tailor who was great at boasting but ill at doing took it into his head to go abroad for a while and look about the world. As soon as he could manage it, he left his workshop and wandered on his way over hill and dale, sometimes hither, sometimes thither, but ever on and on. Once when he was out he perceived in the blue distance a steep hill, and behind it a tower reaching to the clouds, which rose up out of a wild dark forest. "Thunder and lightning!" cried the tailor. "What is that?" And as he was strongly goaded by curiosity, he went boldly towards it. But what made the tailor open his eyes and mouth when he came near it was see that the tower had legs, and leapt in one bound over the steep hill, and was now standing as an all-powerful giant before him. "What dost thou want here, thou tiny fly's leg?" cried the giant, with a voice as if it were thundering on every side. The tailor whimpered, I want just to look about and see if I can earn a bit of bread for myself in this forest." "If that is what thou art after," said the giant, "thou mayst have a place with me." "If it must be, why not? What wages shall I receive?" "Thou shalt hear what wages thou shalt have. Every year 365 days, and when it is a leap year, one more into the bargain. Does that suit thee?" "All right," replied the tailor, and thought in his own mind, "A man must cut his coat according to his cloth. I will try and get away as fast as I can." On this the giant said to him, "Go, little ragamuffin, and fetch me a jug of water." "Had I not better bring the well itself at once, and the spring too?" asked the boaster, and went with the pitcher to the water. What? And the well and spring too?" growled the giant in his beard, for he was rather clownish and stupid, and began to be afraid. "That knave is not a fool. He has a wizard in his body. Be on thy guard, old Hans. This is no serving man for thee." When the tailor had brought the water, the giant bade him go into the forest and cut a couple of blocks of wood and bring them back. "Why not the whole forest at once, with one stroke?" "The whole forest, young and old, with all that is there, both rough and smooth?" asked the little tailor, and went to cut the wood. "What! The whole forest, young and old, with all that is there, both rough and smooth, and the well in its spring too?" growled the credulous giant in his beard, and was still more terrified. "The knave can do much more than bake apples, and has a wizard in his body. Be on thy guard, old Hans. This is no serving man for thee." When the tailor had brought the wood, the giant commanded him to shoot 2 or 3 wild boars for supper. "Why not rather 1,000 at one shot, and bring them all here?" inquired the ostentatious tailor. "What?" cried the timid giant in great terror. "Let well alone tonight and lie down to rest." The giant was so terribly alarmed that he could not close an eye all night long for thinking what would be the best way to get rid of this accursed sorcerer of a servant. Time brings counsel. Next morning the giant and the tailor went to a marsh, round which stood a number of willow trees. Then said the giant, "Hark thee, tailor, seat thyself on one of the willow branches. I long of all things to see if thou art big enough to bend it down." At once the tailor was sitting on it, holding his breath, and making himself so heavy that the bough bent down. When, however, he was compelled to draw breath, it hurried him, for unfortunately he had not put his goose in his pocket, so high into the air that he was never seen again, and this to the great delight of the giant. If the tailor had not fallen down again, he must be hovering about in the air. Okay, that honestly was a weird one. That was a really weird one, actually. I actually really don't know what to say about that one. It made no sense. The Jew Among the Thorns. I feel like I read that one. Herr Korbes. The Pack of Ragamuffins. The Death of the Little Hen. Little Red Riding Hood. The Griffin. Sea Hare. Could have sworn I remember seeing a different one about Tailor, where the tailor the Valiant Little Tailor. $3.90. Okay. One summer's morning, a little tailor was sitting on his table by the window. He was in good spirits, and sewed with all his might. Then came a peasant woman down the street, crying, "Good jams, cheap! Good jams, cheap!" This rang pleasantly in the tailor's ears. He stretched his delicate head out of the window and called, "Come up here, dear woman. Here you will get rid of your goods." The woman came up the 3 steps to the tailor with her heavy basket, and he made her unpack the whole of the pots for him. He inspected all of them, lifted them up, put his nose to them, and at length said, "The jam seems to me to be good, so weigh me out 4 ounces, dear woman, and if it is a quarter of a pound, that is of no consequence." The woman, who had hoped to find a good sale, gave him what he desired, but went away quite angry and grumbling. Now God bless the jam to my use," cried the little tailor, "and give me health and strength." So he brought the bread out of the cupboard, cut himself a piece right across the loaf, and spread jam over it. "This won't taste bitter," said he, "but I will just finish the jacket before I take a bite." He laid the bread near him, sewed on, and in his joy made bigger and bigger stitches. In the meantime the smell of the sweet jam ascended so to the wall, where the flies were sitting in great numbers, that they were attracted and descended on in its hosts. Wow, this tailor seems kind of like making a big deal, like he's gonna buy a whole bunch of shit just to buy like 4 ounces of jam, and then just leaving it out while he's finishing a jacket and getting more and more lazy about it. "Hola, who invited you?" said the little tailor, and drove the unbidden guests away. The flies, however, who understood no German, would not be turned away, but came back again in ever-increasing companies. The little tailor at last lost all patience, and got a bit of cloth from the hole under his work-table, and said, "Wait, and I will give it to you," struck it mercilessly on them. When he drew it away and counted, there lay before him no fewer than 7 dead, with legs stretched out. "Art thou a fellow of that sort?" said he, and could not help admiring his own bravery. "The whole town shall know of this." So, he's gonna brag about killing 7 flies. And the little tailor hastened to cut himself a girdle, stitched it, embroidered on it in large letters, 7 at one stroke. "What, the town," he continued, "the whole world shall hear of it," and his heart wagged with joy like a lamb's tail. The tailor put on the girdle, and resolved to go forth into the world, because he thought his workshop was too small for his valor of killing 7 flies. Before he went away, he sought about in the house to see if there was anything he could take with him. However, he found nothing but an old cheese, and that he put in his pocket. In front of the door he observed a bird which had caught itself in the thicket. It had to go into his pocket with the cheese. Now he took the road boldly, and as he was light and nimble he felt no fatigue. The road led him up a mountain, and when he had reached the highest point of it, there sat a powerful giant looking about him quite comfortably. The little tailor went bravely up, spoke to him, and said, "Good day, comrade. So thou art sitting here overlooking the widespread world. I am just on my way thither, and want to try my luck. Hast thou any inclination to go with me?" The giant looked contemptuously at the tailor, and said, "Thou ragamuffin, thou miserable creature." "Oh, indeed?" answered the little tailor, and unbuttoned his coat and showed the giant the girdle. "There mayst thou read what kind of man I am." The giant read, 7 at one stroke, and thought that they had been men whom the tailor had killed, and began to feel a little respect for the tiny fellow. Nevertheless, he wished to try him first, and took a stone in his hand and squeezed it together so that water dropped out of it. "Do that likewise," said the giant, "if thou hast the strength." "Is that all?" said the tailor. "That is child's play to us," and put his hand into his pocket, brought out the soft cheese, and pressed it until the liquid ran out of it. "Faith," said he, "that was a little better, wasn't it?" The giant did not know what to say, and could not believe it of the little man. Then the giant picked up a stone and threw it so high that the eye could scarcely follow it. "Now, little mite of a man, do thou likewise." "Well thrown," said the tailor, "but after all the stone came down to earth again. I will throw you one, which shall never come back at all." Then he put his hand into his pocket, took out the bird, and threw it into the air. The bird, delighted with its liberty, rose, flew away, and did not come back. "How does that shot please you, comrade?" said the tailor. "Thou canst certainly throw," said the giant, "but now we will see if thou art able to carry anything properly." He took the little tailor to a mighty oak tree which lay there felled on the ground, and said, "If thou art strong enough, help me to carry the tree out of the forest." "Readily," answered the little man. "Take thou the trunk on thy shoulders. I will raise up the branches and twigs. After all, they are the heaviest." The giant took the trunk on his shoulder, but the tailor seated himself on a branch, and the giant, who could not look around, had to carry the whole tree, and the little tailor into the bargain. He behind was quite merry and happy, and whistled the song, "Three tailors rode forth from the gate," as if carrying the tree were child's play. The giant, after he had dragged the heavy burden part of the way, could go no further, and cried, "Hark you, I shall have to let the tree fall." The tailor sprang nimbly down, seized the tree with both arms as if he had been carrying it, and said to the giant, "Thou art such a great fellow, and yet thou canst even carry the tree." They went on together, and as they passed a cherry tree, the giant laid hold of the top of the tree where the ripest fruit was hanging, bent it down, gave it into the little tailor's hand, and bade him eat. But the little tailor was much too weak to hold the tree. When the giant let go of it, it sprang back again, and the tailor was hurried into the air with it. When he had fallen down again without injury, the giant said, "What is this? Hast thou not strength enough to hold the weak twig?" "There is no lack of strength," answered the little tailor. "Dost thou think that could be anything to a man who has struck down 7 in one blow?" God, this tailor's so fucking... "I leapt over the tree because the huntsmen are shooting down there in the thicket. Jump as I did, if thou canst do it." The giant made the attempt, but could not get over the tree, and remained hanging in the branches, so that in this also the tailor kept the upper hand. The giant said, "If thou art such a valiant fellow, come with me into our cavern and spend the night with us." The little tailor was willing, and followed him. When they went into the cave, other giants were sitting there by the fire, and each of them had a roasted sheep in his hand and was eating it. The little tailor looked around and thought, "This is much more spacious here than in my workshop." The giant showed him a bed, and said he was to lie down in it and sleep. The bed, however, was too big for the little tailor. He did not lie down in it, but crept into a corner. When it was midnight, and the giant thought that the little tailor was lying in a sound asleep, he got up, took a great iron bar, cut through the bed with one blow, and thought he had given the grasshopper his finishing stroke. With the earliest dawn, the giants went into the forest, and had quite forgotten the little tailor, when all at once he walked up to them quite merrily and boldly. The giants were terrified. They were afraid that he would strike them all dead, and ran away in a great hurry. The little tailor went onwards, always following his own pointed nose. After he had walked for a long time, he came to the courtyard of a royal palace, and as he felt weary, he lay down on the grass and fell asleep. Whilst he lay there, people came and inspected him on all sides and read his girdle. 7 in 1 stroke. Ah, said they, what does the great warrior here in the midst of peace? He must be a mighty lord. They went and announced him to the king, and gave it as their opinion that if war should break out, this would be a weighty and useful man, who ought to on no account be allowed to depart. God, that's kind of just them. Like, oh, it's written on his belt, so it must be true. Well, maybe that's just sort of like WWE prize belts. Like, kill 7 people, or in this case, flies, get a belt. The council pleased the king. He sent one of his courtiers to the little tailor to offer him military service when he awoke. The ambassador remained standing by the sleeper, waiting until he stretched his limbs and opened his eyes, and then conveyed to him this proposal. For this very reason I have come here, the tailor replied. I am ready to enter the king's service. He was therefore honorably received, and a special dwelling was assigned him. The soldiers, however, were set against the little tailor, and wished him 1,000 miles away. What is to be the end of this? They said amongst themselves. If we quarrel with him, and he strikes about him, 7 of us will fall at every blow. Not one of us can stand against him. They came therefore to decision, betook themselves in a body to the king, and begged for their dismissal. We are not prepared, said they, to stay with a man who kills 7 at 1 stroke. The king was sorry that for the sake of one he should lose all his faithful servants, wished that he had never set eyes on the tailor, and would willingly have been rid of him again, but he did not venture to give him his dismissal, for he dreaded lest he should strike him and all his people dead, and place himself on the royal throne. He thought about it for a long time, and at last found good counsel. He said to the little tailor, and caused to be informed that he was such a great warrior, he had one request to make of him. Sorry. In the forest of his country lived 2 giants who caused great mischief with their robbing, murdering, ravaging, and burning, and no one could approach them without putting himself in danger of death. If the tailor conquered and killed these 2 giants, he would give him his only daughter to wife, and half of his kingdom as a dowry. Likewise, 100 horsemen would go with him to assist him. That would indeed be a fine thing for a man like me, thought the little tailor. One is not offered a beautiful princess and half a kingdom every day of one's life. Oh yes, he replied, I will subdue the giants, and do not require the help of the 100 horsemen to do it. He who can hit 7 in 1 blow has no need to be afraid of 2. The little tailor went forth, and the 100 horsemen followed him. When he came to the outskirts of the forest, he said to his followers, Just stay waiting here. I alone will soon finish off the giants. Then he bounded into the forest and looked about right and left. After a while he perceived both giants. They lay sleeping under a tree, and snored so that the branches waved up and down. The little tailor, not idle, gathered 2 pockets full of stones, and with these climbed up the tree. When he was halfway up, he slipped down by a branch until he sat just above the sleepers, and then let one stone after another fall on the breast of one of the giants. For a long time the giant felt nothing, but at last he awoke, pushed his comrade, and said, Why art thou knocking me? Thou must be dreaming, said the other. Why art thou pelting me? I am not pelting thee, answered the first, growling. They disputed about it for a time, but as they were weary they let the matter rest, and their eyes closed once more. The little tailor began his game again, picking out the biggest stone, and threw it with all his might at the breast of the first giant. That is too bad, cried he, and sprang up like a madman, and pushed his companion against a tree until it shook. The other paid him back in the same coin, and they got into such a rage that they tore up the trees and belaboured each other so long that at last they had both fell down, dead on the ground at the same time. Then the little tailor leapt down. It is a lucky thing, said he, that they did not tear up the tree on which I was sitting, or I should have had to spring on to another like a squirrel. But we tailors are nimble. He drew out his sword and gave each of them a couple thrusts in the breast, and then went out to the horsemen and said, The work is done. I have given both of them their finishing stroke, but it was hard work. They tore up trees in their sore need, and defended themselves with them. But all that is to no purpose when a man like myself comes, who can kill 7 in one blow. But are you not wounded? Asked the horseman. You need not concern yourself about that, answered the tailor. They have not bent one hair of mine. The horseman would not believe him, and rode into the forest. There they found the giants swimming in their blood, and all around them lay the torn-up trees. The little tailor demanded of the king the promised reward. He, however, repented on his promise, and again bethought himself how he could get rid of the hero. Before thou receivest my daughter, and the half of my kingdom, he said to him, thou must perform one more heroic deed. In the forest roams a unicorn which does great harm, and thou must catch it first. I fear one unicorn still less than 2 giants. 7 at one blow is my kind of affair. He took a rope and axe with him, went forth into the forest, and again bade those who were sent with him to wait outside. He had not to seek long. The unicorn soon came towards him and rushed directly on the tailor, as if it would spit him on his horn without more ceremony. Softly, softly, it can't be done as quickly as that, said he, and stood still and waited until the animal was quite close, then sprang nimbly behind the tree. The unicorn ran against the tree with all its strength, and struck its horn so fast in the trunk that it had not strength enough to draw it out again, and thus it was caught. Now, I have got the bird, said the tailor, and came out from behind the tree and put the rope around its neck. And then with the axe he hewed the horn out of the tree, and when all was ready he led the beast away and took it to the king. The king still would not give him his promised reward, and made a third demand. Before the wedding the tailor was to catch him a wild boar that made great havoc in the forest, and the huntsmen should give him their help. Willingly, said the tailor. That is child's play. He did not take the huntsmen with him into the forest, and they were well pleased that he did not, for the wild boar had several times received them in such a manner that they had no inclination to lie in wait for him. When the boar perceived the tailor, it ran on him with foaming mouth and whetted tusks, and was about to throw him to the ground, but the active hero sprang into a chapel which was near, and up to the window at once, and in one bound again. The boar ran in after him, but the tailor ran round outside and shut the door behind it. Then the raging beast, which was much too heavy and awkward to leap out the window, was caught. The little tailor called the huntsmen hither and thither, that they might see the prisoner with their own eyes. The hero, however, went to the king, who was now, whether he liked it or not, obligated to keep his promise, and gave him his daughter and half of his kingdom. Had he known that it was no warlike hero, but a little tailor who was standing before him, it would have gone to his heart still more than it did. The wedding was held with great magnificence and small joy, and out of a tailor a king was made. After some time the young queen heard her husband say in his dreams at night, Boy, make me a doublet, and patch the pantaloons, or else I will wrap the yard measure over thine ears. Then she discovered in what state of life the young lord had been born, and the next morning complained of her wrongs to her father, and begged him to help her get rid of her husband, who was nothing else but a tailor. The king comforted her, and said, Leave thy bedroom door open this night. My servant shall stand outside, and when he has fallen asleep shall go in, bind him, and take him on board a ship, which shall carry him into the wide world. The woman was satisfied with this, but the king's armor-bearer, who had heard all, was friendly with the young lord, and informed him of the whole plot. I'll put a screw into that business, said the little tailor. At night he went to bed with his wife at the usual time, and when she thought that he had fallen asleep, she got up, opened the door, and then lay down again. The little tailor, who was only pretending to be asleep, began to cry out in a clear voice, Boy, make me the doublet, and patch me the pantaloons, or I will wrap the yard measure over thine ears. I smote 7 at one blow. I killed 2 giants. I brought away 1 unicorn and caught a wild boar, and I am to fear those who are standing outside the room. When these men heard the tailor speaking thus, they were overcome by a great dread, and ran as if the wild huntsmen were behind them, and none of them would venture anything further against him. So the little tailor was a king and remained one, to the end of his life. So, pretty much the story of a very, very pretentious tailor who managed to bullshit his way into being a king. Kind of inspiration to us all. Do you think I should do another fairy tale, or should I switch to something else? Guess I could finish it up with poetry. Yeah, my voice is really starting to go. Maybe this one seems interesting. Lastly, finishing up with a poetry reading. The Voyage by Baudelaire. Translation for T.S. Eliot. For the boy playing with his globe and stamps, the world is equal to his appetite. How grand the world in the blaze of the lamps, how petty in tomorrow's small dry light. One morning we left anchor, full of brave prejudices, prospects, ingenuity. We swing with the velvet swell of the wave. Our infinite is rocked by the fixed sea. Some wish to fly a cheapness they detest. Others their cradles terror. Others stand, with their binoculars on a woman's breast, reptilian Circe to their junk and wand. Not to be turned to reptiles such men daze, themselves with spaces, light, the burning sky. Cold toughens them, they bronze in the sun's blaze, and dry the sores of their debauchery. But the true voyagers are those who move, simply to move, like lost balloons. Their heart is some old motor thudding in one groove. It says its single phrase, "Let us depart." They are like conscripts lusting for the guns. Our sciences have never learned to tag. Their projects and designs, enormous, vague. Hopes grease the wheel of these automatons. 2. We imitate, oh horror, tops and bowls, in their eternal waltzing marathon. Even as sleep, our fever whips and rolls, like a black angel flogging the brute sun. Strange sport, where destination has no place, or name, and may be anywhere we choose, where man, committed to his endless race, runs like a madman diving for repose. Our soul is a three-master seeking port. A voice from starboard shouts, "We're at dock." Another, more elated, cries from port, "Here's dancing gin and girls. Balls, it's a rock." The islands sighted by the lookout seem like Eldorados promised us last night. Imagination wakes from its drugged dream, sees only ledges in the morning light. Poor lovers of exotic Indias, shall we throw you in chains or in the sea? Sailors discovering new Americas, who drown in a mirage of agony. The worn-out sponge who scuffles through our slums sees whiskey, paradise, and liberty. Wherever oil lamps shine in furnished rooms, we see blue grottos, Caesars, and Capri. Stunningly simple tourists, your pursuit. Okay, 3. Stunningly simple tourists, your pursuit is written in the teardrops in your eyes. Spread out the packing cases of your loot, your azure sapphires of seas made of seas and skies. We want to break the boredom of our jails and cross the ocean without oars or steam. Give us visions to stretch our minds like sails, the blue exotic shoreline of your dream. Tell us, what have you seen? 4. We've seen the stars, a wave or two. We've also seen some sand. Although we peer through telescopes and spars, we're often deadly bored as you on land. The shine of sunlight on the violet sea, the roar of cities when the sun goes down. These stir our hearts with restless energy. We worship the Indian Ocean where we drown. No old chateau or shrine besieged by crowds of crippled pilgrims sets our soul on fire. As these chance countries gathered from the clouds, our hearts are always anxious with desires. Desire, that great elm fertilized by lust, gives its old body, when the heaven warms, its bark that winters in old age and crust. Green branches draw the sun into its arms. Why are you always growing taller, tree? Oh, long live that cypress. Yet we took 1 or 2 sketches for your picture book, brothers who sell your souls for novelty. We have salamed to pagan gods with horns, entered shrines peopled by a galaxy, of Buddhas, Slavic saints, and unicorns. So rich Rothschild must dream of bankruptcy. So rich Rothschild must dream of bankruptcy. Oh no, they're naming the Rothschilds. Priests robe that scattered solid golden flakes. Dancers with tattooed bellies and behinds. Charmers supported by braziers of snakes. 5. Yes, and what else? 4. Oh, trivial childish minds. You've missed the more important things that we were forced to learn against our will. We've been from top to bottom of the ladder, and see only the pageant of immortal sin. They are women, servile, peacock-tailed and coarse, merry for money, and love without disgust, horny, pot-belled tyrants stuffed on lust, slaves, the sewer in which their gutter pours, old maids who weep, playboys who live each hour, state banquets loaded with hot sauces, blood and trash, ministers sterilized by dreams of power, workers who love their brutalizing lash. And everywhere religions like our own, all storming heaven, propped by saints who reign, like Sybarites on beds of nails and frown, all searching for some orgiastic pain. Many, self-drunk, are lying in the mud, mad now, as they have always been. They roll in torment, screaming to the throne of God, "My image and my Lord, I hate your soul." And others, dedicated without hope, flee the dull herd, each locked in his own world, hides in his ivory tower of art and dope. This is the daily news from the whole world. 7. How sour the knowledge travelers bring away. The world's monotonous and small. We see ourselves today, tomorrow, yesterday. An oasis of horror in the sands of ennui. Shall we move or rest? Rest if you can rest. Move if you must. One runs, but others drop, and trick their vigilant antagonist. Time is a runner who can never stop. The wandering Jew are Christ's apostles, yet nothing's enough. No knife goes through the ribs of this Rhetarius throwing out his net. Others can kill and never leave their cribs. And even when time's heel is on our throat, we can still hope, still cry, "On, let's go!" Just as we once took passage on the boat for China, shivering as we felt the blow. So we now set our sails for the Dead Sea, light-hearted as the youngest voyager. If you look seaward, traveler, you will see a spectre rise and hear it sing. Stop, here, and eat my lotus flowers. Here's where they're sold. Here are the fabulous fruits. Look, my bowels bend. Eat yourself sick on knowledge. Here we hold time in our hands. It never has to end. We know the accents of this ghost by heart. Our comrade spreads his arm across the seas. On, Orestes, sail and feast your heart. Here's Clytemnestra, once we've kissed her knees. 8. It's time, old captain, lift anchor, sink. The land rocks. We shall sail into the night. If now the sky and sea are black as ink, our hearts, as you must know, are filled with light. Only when we drink poison are we well. We want, this fire burns so our brain tissue, to drown in the abyss, heaven or hell, who cares? Through the unknown, we'll find the new. And do one more short poem from Baudelaire. Then probably call it a night. Okay, this one. The end of the day. In the waning, death-pale daylight, convulsive life runs, dances without reason, blatant and brawling, shrill with spite, as soon as over the horizon. Night voluptuous and vast, rises, making hunger tame, hiding all things, even shame. The poet to himself, at last, my spirit and my jaded spine plead hungrily for rest. I'll go, with dreams darkening my mind, and lie full length upon my back, O cooling curtains of deep shadow, and roll and wrap me in your black. Okay, been streaming for about 3 hours now, and probably should call it a night. Just, well, thank you for watching, and for anybody who's watching after this, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. It's kind of hard to say it with a straight face with how many people in there and like their videos on that. But yeah, just hope you enjoy the idle chatter and occasional poetry and fairy tale reading. Well, good night.